Now, to use the advanced filter can be quite tedious, especially if you have to go under the data menu every time to filter, to advanced filter, or to show all. How about instead I go back and I do another advanced filter, only this time I have Excel record everything I do, or at least the part where I go under the data filter and I do all the steps for advanced filter. So that way I don't have to keep doing it over and over again. I can have Excel learn what I've done and do it for me by recording and watching what I do, the steps, for example. I'm going to go back over here, and again you can click anywhere in your database, and what I want to do now is turn on the recorder, which is called a macro. Go up under the Tools menu, down to Macro, and then over and click on Record New Macro. Of course, it gives you a generic name, Macro 5. You can type in whatever you want, like Filter 1, and then a shortcut key to execute this macro for you, or all these recorded steps that Excel can do and do all the work for you. I'm going to do Control T and then click OK. Right now it's recording. Now it's not recording time, it's recording actions. And you can see this little toolbar down here has a little button to click on stop when I'm done recording all my actions. So let's get started. Go under the data menu, down to filter, and over and down to advanced filter. It pulls up and it selects my database, but I want to make sure that Excel is watching everything I do and recording it, so I'll do it again. I'll click on the collapse dialog box button for the list range, click and drag and select my database, and then click to expand. Now Excel recorded all that. It's watching and seeing what I'm doing. Next I want the criteria range. I'll click on that collapse dialog box button, and I'll click and drag and reselect my criteria range, and then click to expand. Also, I would like the data to copy to another location. When I select it, it gives me the option to click the box and say, well, I'd like to copy it to, let's do I-9. So instead of filtering this data over here and hiding what's not meeting the criteria, instead it will leave everything there and pull over whatever meets the criteria over to this cell here, and that's what it means by copy to a location that I specified there. I click OK, and then when I'm finished I can go ahead and click on the stop button. Now of course when I go over here it didn't pull anything because again when you look over here for the 4 bedrooms it doesn't have 1 bath, they're all 3. That's okay. The most important fact is it recorded the steps. So I'm going to delete this because it did pull over or copy the headers over here, and now I want to test my macro. To really test it, I want to be able to get rid of the baths and actually have something that pulls over. So I can go under the Tools menu, down to Macro, go over to Macros, and there's my filter, and I can click Run. Boom! It automatically pulls in the criteria over here. Really cool. Of course it is cut off, and so I may have to click and drag to expand that to see it all. But I'll go ahead and undo that for now, and I'll go ahead and delete that again. Now instead of deleting it this time, and I have to delete it every time, how about if I recorded the steps of me selecting it and deleting it, and then I can go ahead and click on a button and it'll delete it for me, or do the Control V to actually delete it for me as well. Remember I did the Control T, so if I delete this and I hold down the Control key and hit the letter T, it automatically does it for me. Really cool. You see how it does all that steps for you because you trained it. You had it watch what you do. Let me click off in a blank area here and let me have it watch me deleting this information. So Tools, to Macros to record a new macro, and this time I'm going to call it Clear, and let's do the Control key of Control V as in Victor and click OK. Now it's watching everything that I'm doing. The criteria can be kind of tricky. In other words, I want to select this and it's recording me selecting this range, but if I just hit the delete key it'll only delete this range right here. But what if it was more than this? What if the information came down further? Well, that's what you want to take into consideration. So I'm going to go all the way down, and I think I have 25 lines in my database, but let's go down to line 40 in case if the criteria gives me like, well, looks like 25 lines here. I could hit the delete key, but also what might be a little bit better is to go under the edit menu so Excel can watch what you're doing, and then go down to clear and say you want to clear all. Now if I hit the stop button, this is going to clear it all, but then I'll have the shadow here. Instead I'd like to have, when I'm done clearing, have Excel take me up to maybe to this cell right here. And you see how I clicked all over the place? It's recording all that. But when you run it, it goes so fast you can't see you bouncing around all over the place. So I'll click the stop recording button. Okay, so now you know we have the shortcut key Control T, which goes through the advanced filter, and then Control V will clear it. So if I change my bedrooms, let's say we want to pull up just ones with 2 bedrooms, I do Control T, boom, it automatically pulls everything that has 2 bedrooms. I do Control V, boom, it deletes everything. T, V, T, V. Very fun. Now, instead of doing the control shortcuts, I can also add buttons if buttons help, because maybe when you hand this database to somebody else, they don't know the shortcuts. Of course, they could always go under the Tools menu, down to Macros, and over and click on Macros to see a list of what you have here. Now, if you don't have any descriptions, it's not going to be helpful, because when they select Filter 1, it just says it was recorded by me. Unless you type in exactly what it does when you recorded it, not going to be helpful. Now, if you ever make a mistake in a macro, it's very wise not to click Edit, because when you click Edit, unless you know Visual Basic Programming, it gets a little bit tricky. Some things make sense in here, like for example down here it says the range is H7 when it comes to selecting a range when it's done recording, when it comes to clearing the macro. Instead of H7 when it's done, how about if I said instead of going to that cell when you're done, let's go to H8 and then go up in the menu, File, Close and Return. It automatically saved it for me, so when I hit Control V to clear, look how it goes down to H8. Very nice. So unless you know a lot about macros and how to edit them, it's probably best to delete the macro, Tools to Macros, select it and delete it, then to edit it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close out of here, and I want to add 2 buttons. I want to add a button up here that says Filter, a button below that says Clear. That does the exact same things as if I did my Control T to filter and Control V to clear. For example, I'll right click on any button up here on the toolbar, and you can see it gives me a list of all the toolbars, well, the 3 that I have open here that are checked. I want to pull up the Forms toolbar. And I'm going to click and drag this up so you can see it. And I'm looking for this one that's called the button. Now when I click on it, it activates it, and I move my mouse and you can see a little black cross. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag just like I'm drawing a picture. And I'm going to draw my button about yay big. The moment I let go of the mouse, watch what happens. Boom. It says, what do you want to assign this button to, which macro? Well, I'd like it to be the filter, and then click OK. Now before I do anything else, you see this little fuzzy border? It means it's in edit mode, so I can click and drag and change the name of the button and call it filter. Let's make a mistake and say I called it that and I clicked off. I'm like, oh, now how can I change it? The problem that you run into is that when I hover over it, it now has a hyperlink hand that when I click on it, it actually runs the filter. I don't want to do that. When in doubt, right click on it and then left click on that fuzzy border, and then go ahead and select the text and do filter. And then if you hold down the Shift key and hit home, it selects the whole text and you can bold it. You can also turn it red. And then when you're done, click off in a blank area. Now let's finish and do our clear button. Click on this button again, click and drag about yay big. We'll assign it to the clear. We'll click OK. We'll highlight it. We'll call it clear. And then also maybe make it bold, and maybe this time make it a nice fancy blue. Then click off in a blank area. Close our Forms toolbar. Let's change this to 3 bedrooms. Hit enter. And let's do our filter and let's clear it. They want something that's maybe under, well, let's say 125,000. Do we have anything in our database? Let's filter it. Nothing. Maybe something under 175,000 as a 3-bedroom. Filter it. We've got one with 3 bedrooms, but then we want to make sure we clear it because as you saw, it only pulled up part of it. You don't want to keep doing filter, filter, because every time you click filter and you change here and you do filter, it's overwriting this. Be sure to clear it. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, as soon as I upload a new video, you'll be notified instantly, and you can do that by coming over here and clicking on my face. You can also click here to support me, so for $2 a month, you can have access to over 2,700 training videos, all ad-free, and for a few bucks more, you can have access to my exercises, instructor notes, quizzes, certificate of completion, and a whole lot more.